for what he has done.
All right, gentlemen, let's move on to some security matters. Nigerians want results regarding the war against insecurity in the country, and fast. As such, the state chairman of the All Progressives Congress, APC, have asked President Bola Tinubu to sack non-performing service chiefs. About 33 APC state chairmen made this call when they visited President Tinubu at the State House in Abuja. Speaking with journalists after the meeting, the chairman of APC in Cross River State, who is the secretary of the forum, said criminal activities are being perpetrated to put the party in a bad light. He added that the president must always hold those in charge of security agencies accountable. Let me start with you, Adeoye. Is this a good call?
One impressive thing about that call is the fact that it's coming from the ruling party itself.
Putting itself in check.
Yes. Criticism and self-criticism is the engine of growth. So we cannot say, in the past, maybe people just go there and say, oh, you know, the country is peaceful and all that. So I am glad that they were able to admit that there are challenges. Last year, the figure we received about people killed, about 29,000, you know, accumulatively, and about 15,430 people kidnapped. And this year alone, we know how many people have been kidnapped in Kaduna, you know, and also in other parts of the country, even in the Ekiti state. So I'm happy that they are calling on the president that if there are people that are not performing, they are not just talking about service chiefs. They are talking of even DPOs, local government, you know, and all that. People are in charge of security in every sphere of our lives. So I think it shows that the party is you know, is up and doing to be able to look at itself and say, look, things are not correct. Things are not going well. But I think that for me, it is too early now to start blaming the service chiefs.
Too early?
I think it is too early. Because if you look at the landmines that Nigeria needs to work through from last year, starting from economic landmines, you know, the CBN policies that destabilize the entire country, that put a lot of people in the shambles, that collapsed 2 million SMS. And if you also look at this Naira swap that destroyed a lot of households. And then the fact of the matter that subsidy was suddenly removed. It was not in last year's budget. So I been issue that was no plan for subsidy. So even if anybody had emerged as president last year, the same upheaval will have happened. So I think, and we must also not forget about certain gains being recorded. The past 8 months, if you look at what is going on in the Niger Delta, the number of stolen crude oil that has, you know, there have been intervention, you know, arrests that have been made by the Navy. I think we are making a lot of progress. Even in my own state, the speed at which the police, you know, they were able to catch up with people that kidnapped some people in the state, those that killed those 2 traditional kings, within 1 week, which never happened before. They were arrested, you know, and we saw that this time there is serious effort, you know. The children that were kidnapped in Isemure, within 3-4 days, they had picked up the person in charge. I mean, the person responsible for the crime. So, and if you also see what is going on in the Northeast, what the army is doing, you know, the chief of army staff, I think we are making progress. So if you weigh what we, you know, if you weigh their achievements, you know, against the backdrop of the shortcomings, shortfalls, I think it's not the time now for us to be calling for sacking of service. We should still give them time. They are working within a very difficult situation that was inherited. We should at least look about 1 year, and then we'll be able to effectively assess them. And there are also institutional problems that we cannot run away with, that even when you put the best in certain positions, some challenges are just natural that will be there. Look at the problem of NIN. In other countries, the essence of having NIN is for security. But up till now, in fact, since we started GSM, that was the time we should have started NIN. We didn't start until recently. And there are all sorts of problems associated with NIN. NIN is supposed to allow the security organizations link up with your phone and your bank account to be able to track you. Look, the US, if you see the way they catch up with terrorists and all that, it's through this kind of technical system. Look at when they were trying to get Osama bin Laden. One fellow was arrested at the airport, US airport. He wanted to come in. They asked him to go back because they were not sure of his papers. But they got his fingerprints. Eventually, this guy went and fought in Afghanistan. He was captured. They ran his, fingerprints and discovered he was in the US years back, but he was not allowed to enter. They started looking at the screen. Who was at the airport at that moment when this guy was asked to go back from US? They discovered that one of the people that had been arrested was also at the airport at the same time, probably to come and welcome him. They started interrogating him. That was how they were able to get one al-Kuwaiti, the brothers who are Korea for Bin Laden. And they started tracking the name and the phone, picking conversations of this fellow to the extent that they were able to discover that he was one of the carriers of Bin Laden. And they tracked him, went to, Abbottabad, and then discovered that this is where this guy was living. So it's through phone, name, and all that. So it's very important for our security. So when these things are not in order, there is a need to which we can just be blaming policemen, blaming chief of army staff. There are a lot of institutional defaults that we need to put in place before security organizations can work effectively.
Thank you very much, Adewale. Bike, while you react to whether or not this is too early or it's too early to criticize the service chiefs, some others have said this call is simply to check incompetence.
Yes, in the past, I demanded for this kind of constant scrutiny, because you can't just put people there to help you run the country, and then some of them will just be marking time. So the president has to send packing people that he could see clearly are not up to the job, whether they are service chiefs or his ministers. I'm happy that even after he set up his cabinet, he gave the job of assessing those ministers to Hadiza Bala. She's a special assistant to the president on policy and coordination. So her job is to ensure that every minister does the job that is been assigned. We have to also assess service chiefs in that manner. If you are a service chief and you are not good enough, there's no reason to keep you there indefinitely. The last administration did that. And what did we achieve? We had service chiefs who clearly overstayed their welcome. They even caused bad blood within the armed forces because they are being kept for too long, ensured that others were stagnated. The joy of every set at the NDA is for their set to produce a chief of army staff, for example, a chief of air staff. But President Bola didn't let that happen for years and years. He extended the tenure of the service chiefs beyond the necessary, because at a point it was clear that their best was no longer good enough, yet he kept them there. He kept them there, So we don't want to see that happen under this administration. And service chiefs must know that they have the president's mandate to deliver, to secure us as a people, because a lot of money gets spent on security in our country. We have to see the results. We have to see the results. There has to be effective response to security challenges in different parts of the country. Wherever we hear of violent combustion and all that, we have to respond effectively. That's the job of the services, and they have to be creative. They don't have to do things the way the previous administration, the previous service chiefs did things, because if we continue to do things the old way, definitely you will not achieve results. So I think that this sort of thing, this sort of call the attention of the service chiefs must have been drawn to this kind of call, and hopefully this will get them to sit down and then protect us better as a people.
But would it be far-reaching to say, I mean, there are those who have said it looks like we've accepted failure in our security sector based on the fact that for a while no one has been held accountable for incompetence?
That's why we are saying that it has to change. I agree that it's a little too early, you know. Even if you come up with reforms in the security sector, you need time for those reforms to bear fruits. It's just like even in the economic sector, you need time for your methods to begin to work. We are prepared to wait for the methods of this current set of service chiefs to begin to bear fruits. But the point being made is that we cannot wait forever. We can't wait indefinitely. If things don't improve, it is our duty as pressmen to begin to demand that the president does something about this service chiefs. Now, it's too early because he didn't even appoint them immediately he became president. He was using the old ones. And now they've been there for some time. They still need time. But we demand improvement. That's all
right. Adewale, before we move on, based on this unrestrained bloodbath, there are those calling on the president to order an investigation into the alleged collusion of criminals with members of the security agencies.
Absolutely. Well, we don't need any prophet to tell us that. You know, 280 people taken from Kaduna. You need 5 luxurious buses to move them. If you are thinking of using motorcycles, you need at least about 100. 280 is a huge crowd. And then moving from one place to the other, it will take them hours. And you are telling me there are no collaborators. And also the fact of the matter is that there are electoral interest in every security issue. There are people who want to, because they have lost out. It's not the only narrative, but that narrative you cannot deny it. Who will say that, look, we have lost this election, we have want to wait for another 4 years. Yes. We must make
sure it doesn't succeed.
Make sure this person does not. It has always been there.
Yes.
And they could be driven by ideology, they could be driven by ethnicity, they could be driven by
greed for power.
The greed for power. That the best, in fact, if I don't have it, let us destroy the whole thing. Those interests.
Somebody once threatened that they will make the nation ungovernable.
Yeah.
Just because he lost a primary election.
Because they see their own interests above the collective interests of Nigerians. We are seeing that at play. It has always been there. So it's the responsibility of the government to look for these dark forces and ensure that they are brought to book. They are always there. Because they have lost election, they just take a look. We have lost power, perks and privileges that we have inherited over the years. People are not questioning our authority. So we must make sure this government.
So you agree that there should be an
sponsor a lot of. I mean, they
should be identified and dealt with.
You know, and I tell you that Nigerians will support that kind of. Nigeria is greater than.
It should be identified.
All right, gentlemen, let's move on to this very devastating story. It is alarming to see soldiers